When people send me messages or questions, a lot of them normally involve asking about my opinion on a piece of hardware or software and what I use. So I thought this was a good opportunity to show my home studio and offer a little advice on starting a studio yourself. Technology is pretty amazing. You can make a studio at home that is better than the best studio in the world was 40 years ago. To quote one of my university lecturers, I would have sold my nan to have Logic in the 80s. You can do in 3 minutes what would have probably taken 3 weeks back then. And in his defence, we never met his nan. I have a small dedicated room in my house. All of my electronic equipment is here, and it's a good size for recording instruments, and it's nice to work in a place that doesn't feel like you're sat in a cupboard. My desk is a fairly standard music desk that I got a year or two ago. When considering a desk, you certainly need to make sure you have enough room to host everything that you have and are planning on having in the future. A sturdy desk is also something that you need to make life easier. I prefer wood rather than metal, just out of preference, and it really doesn't have to cost the earth. There are desks online that go to thousands of pounds or dollars, which I'm sure aesthetically look lovely, but you're a musician, something functional that isn't too flashy. If you need to add RGB lights to your desk to make it look cool, instead of spending hundreds of pounds more for that feature, buy a standard non-lighty up desk and just stick a strip of LEDs on it. Looks pretty much the same, and the LED light strip cost about £10. It took me 5 minutes to set up as well. Something with a pull-out tray as well to store a MIDI keyboard is also a great feature to have. I have a Mac Mini 2023 model that I run pretty much exclusively as my music production machine. I recently upgraded from an iMac 2013 model that was pretty badly showing its age at this point. Apple has kind of almost become a victim of its own success recently, and what I mean by that is, with how powerful the new Mac Minis are, you can pretty much run a professional music studio using a Mac Mini with upgraded specs. This costs significantly less than the Studio model or an iMac or a MacBook Pro. I use Logic as my main DAW in music production. Some advice I would offer though is software with Mac might work on older versions of their operating system, but put them in a new Mac OS with the new M2 chip, and you might find everything starts to fall apart. Mac Minis are also not practical for 4K video editing or animation rendering. And to invest in a Mac for those purposes I don't personally think is practical when you can buy a Windows PC at a fraction of the cost. This is also much easier to upgrade, which is why my studio I also have a Windows PC. This is used for video production, gaming, and pretty much everything that isn't directly music production. I mostly use this behemoth gaming PC and 2K monitor to play 20-year-old games. To get a Mac that runs a music studio and a PC that runs everything costs roughly half what an all-in-one Mac would cost. Mac operating systems is not known for being overly friendly when it comes to upgrades. If you're a beginner with no experience in using DAWs, I would first start to explore some free ones before investing in professional standard ones. If you're a Mac user, GarageBand is a great introduction to Logic, but anything can create professional music with enough experience. An audio interface is something you connect to your computer to allow both input and output of audio, kind of like an extended sound card. I currently use the Audien ID4, a simple, USB-powered interface. I could probably do an entire video on microphones. In fact, I might even do that in the future, but for now, a microphone is something you record instruments or sounds. Dependent on what style of music you're creating, this may not be as important, but live instrumentations and sounds should be used in virtually every type of music. It adds so much life and creation to music, breaking the window of virtual instruments, especially important in styles that are recreating acoustic instruments, like, for instance, orchestral music. I use an Audio-Technica AT3035, a great all-rounder microphone that works well for many different sound types, such as acoustic instruments, singing, and voice work. Small diaphragm or pencil microphones are similar but a bit brighter and probably pick up a bit more of the high end of the recording. Dynamic mics are good if you're recording things that get loud, like drums or tubas, as they handle high levels of volume better but don't quite have the intimacy of condenser mics. A good pair of studio speakers is a must for music production, in any capacity. It allows you to reference music on a speaker and hear the sound well much better than commercial speakers will. I use Yamaha HS7s, and in my opinion they're the best value for the price point. You don't want anything that makes things sound nice. The amount of times people mix with bass boosting headphones or bass boosting speakers and then wonder why it sounds flat on anything other than their system is pretty amazing. I also have a commercial Logitech speaker system which I use to reference standard speakers. A MIDI keyboard is something that you play into your DAW to record MIDI data on. I use the M Audio Keystation 88 and the Keystation 48. They're pretty standard, no nonsense and quite minimalist. Nothing overly fancy, but they work extremely well and I've never had an issue with any of them. I hope you enjoyed having a look around my home studio and this has answered some of the questions that have been sent to me. Thank you so much for everyone that has asked a question, I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the people that check out my work. See you all soon.